I see. I want to welcome all of you that have joined early. Today is going to be a fun event. We're going to try to keep it moving. We're going to try to keep it fast because there's lots of information. Silversea goes to the north, to the south, and to the center. So we want to make sure that we keep it engaging. For Tim and Todd, you should know that a lot of the people that we have today have already sailed with Silversea before. We might even have some people that have done expedition cruises before. So we will ask those questions later on. But I'm certainly excited about, because we haven't had a Silversea expedition event in some time. And I think the last time we did it was with our old friend,
maybe Rachel or Carl.
Carl Kanstetter.
Yeah.
And I know Carl is no longer with you guys. So it's going to be interesting to get a different take on the, what's new and what's going on with Silversea, especially on the expedition side. And we are hitting 3 p.m. on the dot. So for those that have been with us before, once again, thank you for joining us. Again, thank you for participating in our events. We love it. We love to have you. We love to spend some time with you, and we love this opportunity to share some good information with you guys, as well as opening up the door to ask questions and provide feedback to our partners at each one of the different cruise lines. Today, we are here to talk about Silversea Expeditions. And we are going to have a pretty good turnout. We already have over 33 people and more people joining by the minute, by the second here in our call. And we're like I was saying before, obviously for those of you that have already sailed Silversea and know a lot about Silversea might find some of the information that we're talking about, well, I already know that, and that's great. There are some people here that might have never sailed with Silversea and are here because they want to know what Silversea is about. But we are going to focus this conversation on expedition. So the idea of today's event is not just to talk about expedition in general, but obviously to talk about what Silversea offers in the expedition market, and whether you have or are willing to have done it or are about to plan an expedition trip. I think you'll find this event very interesting because you should open your eyes to what's out there, what Silversea is offering, and can help you understand what is the right trip for you, right? Because those expeditions they're all very different from each other. As you're joining today's event, you see, you obviously realize that we're recording the event. And the reason we do that is because we had over 100 people register for the event, but not everybody gets an opportunity to actually attend live. So we do send this event the recording of this event to everybody, including all of you guys that are here today. And the idea is for you to be able to rewatch it as many times as you want, but also to share it with your friends and family. We do have a special offer, a little special something that we always like to put together for the event that we talk about at the end of the event, a little bit of an incentive for you guys to book another Silversea cruise and hopefully an expedition cruise. And so anybody that attends the event, whether it is live or recorded, is going to be eligible within the next 2 weeks to take advantage of that. And we'll talk about that more at the end. I do want, if you guys are okay with it, I do want to obviously focus a lot on expeditions, but I also want to spend a good amount of time at the end to share with you guys a kind of the latest on the most current promotions that are going on. Yes, of course, we love all of you guys to book a cruise, but most importantly, because I know that if you're here, it's because you're interested in learning about pricing and interested in learning about opportunities and promotions and how you can take advantage of those opportunities to I guess save a couple $1,000 here or there if possible. Why not? But at the same time, the most important thing, as always, is for you to educate yourself in what the product is, what the expectations are, and understand if it is the right product for you. Toward the end of the event, we are going to open up for Q&A. If you hear something throughout the event that you feel that you want more information about, feel free to stop us. Feel free to just raise your hand and be like, hey, hold on. Let me ask something about that before you move on. But if you kind of thought of something that you want to make sure that we touch on, just put it in the chat box. And I'm just going to open up the chat box and say, hello. So when you see this little a bubble at the bottom of your screen pop up, that's a hello to everybody. Just know that you can type your questions there and we will get to those questions at the end. Also, I want you all to notice that the format of our event is not your typical webinar, right? We are not like, this is why you can see everybody's faces. This is why you can interact. This is why you can unmute yourself. This is why you have a chat. Like, this is not the typical webinar where we're the only ones talking. The idea is it's a conversation, it's an open forum, it's a little bit of a town hall type of situation. It's for everybody to be a part of and participate. That's why I love when Amy comes on and talks about her experience, because I want to hear more of that. I want to hear anybody that has had experiences, good, bad, good, the ugly, anything that you want to share. We love to hear that at the end as well, because we like to think that all of us that are into cruises, into luxury cruising, we all have kind of similar mindset in terms of what we look for. So, creating this little bit of a community feel is also important to us. What else? The polls. Okay, so Denise is going to push a little pop-up also on your screen, because we always want to know what percentage of you have actually sailed with Silversea before. When we're done with this one, Denise is going to push one to know how many of you have done an expedition cruise. Okay, and then we want to know how many of you have done business with us. Okay, so there's plenty of people in this event, like Amy, that have done a lot of business with us and that have a relationship with one of our advisors. Many of you, probably, this is the first time that you hear of us. So I'll introduce myself. I am Carlos Edery. I'm the CEO of Luxury Cruise Connections. And with me, Denise, you can wave your hand.
Hello.
Part of our team. She's the marketing manager, and there are a lot of people in this event that are part of the Luxury Cruise Connections team, and you will recognize them because they have a dash Luxury Cruise Connections right next to their name. So if you have done business with one of our advisors and you see them in the event, feel free to say hi. If not, most likely they will say hi to you, hopefully. If you haven't ever, if you've never done business with us before, then know that if you were to do business with us, then you would be assigned an individual expert, specialist, a personal relationship is going to be built with somebody that will not only know a lot about cruises and the world and destinations, but also know a lot about you, so that we can help you find the right cruise and the right trip and the right vacation for you. So enough of me talking. Todd, Tim, you guys are here, the special invitees. Let me spotlight you guys real quick, and then I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and share with our audience, which, by the way, 45% of you have Silversea before, 55% of you have not. So let me share those results with you guys real quick. Here we go, so you can see that for yourself. And so as we get the results, know that while we want to talk to people about what Silversea is about, we might not want to spend too much, because obviously at least half of the people almost already know enough about the product. So Tim, Todd, hello.
Hi. Oh, good afternoon.
How are you guys doing?
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for having us. This is an exciting format. I've can I just jump in and go
Please.
for it? Or you? Yeah. So just a little bit about myself, and then I'll tie it all in. But I'm South African by birth, but living in San Diego in California, and I had the privilege really of working on board Silversea Expedition since 2008, the year it was put together, and Silversea's deviated into that luxury expedition product. I worked on board the ships as expedition leader, leading trips from pole to pole, really, Russian Far East, Alaska, Japan, the Kimberley, Antarctica, sub-Antarctic islands, in that role as the expedition leader, and countless more as assistant expedition leader. And then I also held a role in the shoreside sort of office team, looking after the operations and some of the logistics that are involved in making these trips possible. I've only recently rejoined Silversea's. I took a bit of a sabbatical. I think a number of us in the cruise industry definitely felt the effects of the last few years. But I've just rejoined the company. I returned in May, and this month as a kickoff has been Expedition Month for the company. So we've been doing a number of these sorts of presentations, but this is definitely the first that's been as interactive as this. So thank you. I really appreciate being here and just having the opportunity to share some of my experience and my love for expedition cruising.
Amazing. And then Todd, tell us who you are. That was a pretty good introduction, Tim, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name's Todd Stevenson. I'm the business development manager for Silversea Cruises, working alongside Audrey Corso. Her and I have been together, oh gosh, for a long period of time. I've been a sales representative in the cruise industry about 27 years, and right down here in sunny South Florida, and probably as far north as the Mid-Atlantic and the Mason-Dixon line. So quite a few. I have not done an expedition cruise. That is on my list of to-do. So like Amy, that was a great story. I loved coming into that. When I heard you talking, I was just like, okay, I got to start talking to my wife, and we got to start planning to take either some expedition cruise somewhere at some time. And we've got Tim with us today to help out and really know where everything is. And once you hear him speak about the destination and in general about expedition, definitely makes you want to go. And Amy, you definitely have the right concept. Leave the husband at home and come on.
Yeah, I think if I may just from a Silversea's representation perspective, I think you've really got two great resources in Todd and myself. Todd certainly understands the sales process and the booking process a little bit more in depth than I do. I'm definitely getting my feet wet in that area. My title is Director of Expedition Sales, but primarily my role is to support the various team members that are looking after our accounts, such as Luxury Cruise Connections, and helping them both in the understanding of the expedition product, and then on the sort of day-to-day logistical questions about, well, what penguins can I see here, or where is a good time to see the Northern Lights, or you know, the specific questions that come down to on a trip-by-trip basis.
Exactly. That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, I you know, when it comes to Silversea, I normally, you know, obviously deal with a lot of people, being, you know, we're a strategic account for a key account. What is it called? Key account for Silversea, which means we're one of your top producers. So I get to chat a lot with Joe Leon, your what is he now? The SVP or VP?
He's senior vice president right now, and he's the one that just called me to make sure I was on this too today. He's like, "Hey, is it you or me?" I said, "It's me." So.
Yeah, I get to talk a lot with Joe constantly, because you know, obviously a lot of strategy, a lot of opportunities, and you know, one of the good things about the relationship that we have is that when we you know, we're here for our clients for the good and the bad, you know, and most of the times things are amazing, right? Most of the times things go perfect, but sometimes, you know, sometimes things need a little bit of attention. And so it's good to have that relationship or that access that we have with the upper management at Silversea, because we really, you know, we really, I guess, I don't want to say that we get what we want, but at least we get the opportunity to take things to the right people whenever that needs to be the case. You know, we've gone through a lot in the last couple of years, in the last few years, obviously, with so much disruption. Things just have, you know, they've never been quite exactly the same, and sometimes expectations come a little short, you know, or I guess, you know, are not completely met, I guess. But that's not just necessarily, you know, that's across the board. in the entire industry, from airlines having a lot of disruption to just staff issues all over the place and all over the world. Once again, I very much appreciate you all spending the time and really doing this for us. So why don't we go ahead and talk about expeditions, and at the end, I'll talk more about our relationship. And for those that have never done business with Luxury Cruise Connections, and Denise is going to push that poll in a minute, also have an opportunity to not just share what we do and who we are, but also hopefully some of our existing guests that are in the event today can also kind of give some third-party validation and share with the audience. Keep us real here. See if we're doing a good job. We're doing what we're supposed to do. Interestingly enough, almost half of you guys have done business with us before, so that's great. All right, so let's talk about expeditions. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time in this question, but just to give a little bit of perspective to our conversation, what is an expedition voyage?
Yeah, I think, and one of the nicest sort of analogies that I like to draw on that is, a lot of people are a lot more familiar with the concept of going on safari. So Joe is actually a big fan of the term safari at sea. And I think the best way to describe that is, as I mentioned, I'm from South Africa. So you go to the beautiful lodge, and in the morning you jump on the game drive vehicle and you go out and you do the exploring and you see what wildlife you can find, and you come back and you have a beautiful lunch and all of those things. And then again in the afternoon you head out and you have a wonderful game drive and you come back to the beautiful lodge. In many ways, I'd say that's the sort of entry to what expedition cruising is. And one of the key things I always say is, we've got to remember, we live on the blue planet. It's about 71% water. And as such, the remote parts of this world are truly best explored with a small expedition ship as the platform to get you there. If you think about going to these remote parts of the world, and I use the analogy of Antarctica when I talk about this, there's no infrastructure down there. There's no piers or jetties or anywhere that you can go and get ashore other than having these small remote vessels such as expedition ships taking you out to these parts of the world and then using them as the platform to do your exploring. Perfect.
And why? So who is the right guest for an expedition?
Yeah, I think as a broader concept, the right guest for an expedition is someone who's looking for a little bit more adventure. Maybe there's a whole number of different categories of people who are looking, and there could be someone who they want to go across the North Pole, the Arctic and Antarctic Circle. There's destination people who are like, I really want to go see a polar bear in the wild, or I want to go see the penguins down in Antarctica. There's people from an expedition perspective who want to get access to a large area but wouldn't know how to put together a land program. For example, going through Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, or up the west coast of Africa. There's people who want to explore these destinations. They want to do it in a level of comfort and luxury, but they know that the logistics of making those trips happen on their own or independent are virtually impossible. So there's that part of it. I think there's also sort of the wildlife seeker, the person who would normally have gone on safari, who's ever said that they wanted to go to Angkor Wat or Machu Picchu or see the Great Migration in Africa. I think that type of mindset. I also think, there's often the anti-cruiser is a good person who I think really enjoys an expedition cruise, someone who doesn't want to be sitting, this isn't knocking the product. It's a beautiful, beautiful product, but, maybe the Queen Mary sailing across for a transatlantic and they think that's an absolute nightmare. That's not an expedition cruise. I think someone who's looking to really get their life, their experience enriched. Expedition cruising is about bringing the destination to life through a number of different modalities, be that the expedition staff on board who are there to enrich and enhance the experience of the guests in the destination. So the curious traveler who's looking to get the most out of the destination they're visiting.
Okay. And you know what, I also think that you know, and I was talking with Javier in from Luxury Cruise Connections, one of our advisors, about this morning, and you know, we believe that there is a group of people that are into expedition because they're really into learning and educating themselves about, you know, different things around the world, right? So they are seeking for adventure, they are seeking, you know, they want to see wildlife and so forth, but it's also, we realize that there's a large amount of expeditioners that are really into reading, into learning, into understanding, into kind of you know, learning, I guess, you know, about these things that you just don't learn in school, or that just not a lot of people talk about, and just really educate themselves on
yeah,
on
absolutely. And I think from that learning perspective, there's obviously two elements to that. There's book learning, and then there's immersing yourself in a destination. And for me, that's where true understanding and appreciation is really sort of driven from. When you put yourself in a location, and you can, you know, meet the people, if it's a cultural yearning that you're looking for, or you know, a destination specific. If you want to learn about the sea lions, or the penguins, or the albatross in the Galapagos, being on the ground and learning that from a guide who is pointing out the things right in front of your eyes. There's no better way to learn. I mean, we can all sit and watch or David Attenborough travel around the world, but it's just not quite the same as living the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and so now let's go into specifically Silversea. What are the pillars of expedition with Silversea?
Yeah, I think that educational component is definitely one of the core elements. When you look at traveling throughout the world, there are a number of different sort of focuses, and I'd be wrong if I said that culture was a focus down in Antarctica, but I don't want that to be taken out of context, because obviously there is a heroic age of exploration, looking at some of the early pioneering explorers like Sir Ernest Shackleton. So it provides its own cultural element, although there's no native peoples there or anything like that. But in general, I like to say that any destination, there's a scenic element, there's scenic beauty, be it the towering fjords in Greenland, or the beautiful sandstone cliffs in the Kimberley in Australia, or obviously Antarctica. You know, so you've got a scenic element, you've got a wildlife element wherever you are. You know, it's obviously varied in different parts of the world. Some people might not automatically assume that the British Isles is a great wildlife destination, but it really is. There's some incredible bird life cliffs and puffins and things like that you can explore. Then there's that cultural component. And yeah, I think if you had to look at those sort of three core pillars, they're all, in my mind, tied together under that educational banner and enrichment in the destination that you're at.
And then what is the Silversea difference? Yeah,
I mean, it's almost $1 million question, and it's something I feel like I can talk about my personal experience. As I said, I've been in the expedition industry for over 10 years, and there has been an incredible growth and number of new operators that are coming in. And I'd be wrong if I said, you know, we show you better penguins down in Antarctica, because that's obviously not the case. Everyone once ashore in Antarctica sees the same scenery, they see the same penguins, but there are a number of key defining things that I think really set Silversea aside. The first is, and I think a really important one, is that we've been around and we've been doing this for about 15 years. We're not the new kid on the block anymore. You know, 15 years ago, there was this industry, in the expedition industry, there was a number of questions asked about, well, can you really merge luxury and expedition? And I think we proved everyone that it can be done. And there's a number of companies that are now sort of copying or emulating or trying to copy what we've been doing. But I think knowing that we've got that experience and we've been doing that for a long time is an important component. The second component behind that is the team that's actually involved in putting these programs together. You know, from the senior vice president of expedition, a gentleman by the name of Conrad, to all of his vice presidents in destination, in planning, in development, in staffing. You know, there's over 100 years of shipboard experience amongst that senior management team that looks after that expedition product. And I can guarantee that there's no other company in the industry that has that much top-end experience when it comes to understanding the product and the delivery of the product. And that, to me, also just, it really ties in. We've come from a position of having developed our own product, our own understanding, and we've attracted really great talent to it. And then I think the final sort of component of it, and it might be a slightly weird answer to some people, but I think now being part of the Royal Caribbean group is probably one of the greatest benefits that exists to Silversea. And the reason for that is, sorry, the reason for that is quite it's quite obvious, but it's quite broad reaching, and it's quite simply, they have a lot of money and they have some pretty deep pockets. And if you look at any of the performance of the cruise lines post the pandemic, Royal Caribbean is by far doing the best. It's a listed company. You can go and see that. But why I think that's important is because of the financial investment that's given us as a company. And you know, as a statistic, the number of expedition ships that operate down in Antarctica has pretty much tripled over the last 10 years or so, which means that there's a certain amount of dilution in terms of the quality of expedition staff and things like that. Why I think Silversea is so uniquely positioned is we have the money and the resources from being part of a bigger group like Royal to not only invest in the best equipment, the best gear for the staff, but also the best resources in terms of training and development. You know, as a statistic, about 50% of the Antarctic expedition guides over this last season were going down for their very first time. And, you know, when you consider that you're part of an organization like Silversea's, and all of the staff have got to have pre-season training experience, they've gone through all of the multiple array of checks and balances to ensure that when you get down there, that there's an incredible wealth of knowledge and back planning that you know you just can't simply get from a small one-ship operator. You know, there's up to 90 expedition staff in the field at any given moment from Silversea's, so you know that there's a team of 20 people behind that, making that possible, and they're investing very heavily in their development, not only on a personal level but on a technical and professional level for the experience of the guests.
That's interesting. You know, I do want to highlight the following. Obviously, you know, today's what we're going to talk about today is Silversea Expedition, but you know, obviously Silversea is an incredible cruise line with incredible core values in terms of their delivery in the luxury market. You have you know, definitely like where they started from was ocean cruising, like traditional ocean cruising, and they have amazing ships in that world. In fact, some of the new ships in the luxury cruise industry are Silversea's. You know, you have the obviously, well, you have the Nova and the Ray. The Nova just coming out this year, and then the Ray coming out next year, right? And then just the previous version of your ships, the
Moon, the Dawn,
the Muse, the Dawn, they're beautiful. They get amazing reviews. Not to say that your I'm going to say older ships, you know, are amazingly well maintained and people love them, not just for the itineraries they take on, but also because of that, you know, special feel that they carry and the traditional Silversea feel they carry. But just having that old suite, butler, marble bathroom, just the elegance all across without really being that stuffy, I think is what attracts your traveler, your cruiser.
Yeah. Sorry, and I hate to interrupt, but I think it's also an incredibly important part of what makes Silversea so much better. Or I shouldn't say that. Why I really believe in the Silversea's product. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to knock any other competitors. There are companies that do great jobs out there, but that soft touch I really like the word that you use. The approach to luxury that I think Silversea's takes in that market is elegance and not opulence. And there's a very sort of concerted effort from management, from Bob Ramuckerman, our CEO, down to understand that the Silversea's guest wants that level of service on board the ship. And in any given destination, and I'll use Antarctica as an example, you could be spending, 65-70% of your time on board the vessel. And obviously that's eating and sleeping and the educational components and all of that. But as I said, Antarctica is Antarctica. And although the expedition staff and the job that they do ashore is exemplary and top rated in the standard, we're all seeing the same penguins. So it's about understanding that onboard experience. And I know without a doubt that the Silversea's crew in general, and that's from the bartenders to the pool stewards to the waiters, the restaurant staff, butlers, the cooks in the galley, they're all there with a very clear and precise message of delivering the absolute incredible experience that our guests have come to know and love.
Yeah, and going back to the money, sort of deep pockets of the parent Royal Caribbean Group, when the pandemic came around, sort of around 2020, one of the luxury cruise lines that was starting to get into the expedition world, that's Crystal Cruises, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, had an incredible ship. In fact, one of the ships, well, the one ship that I think beats all records in terms of the amount of money that was put in per tonnage of a ship, right, in the history of the world. And that was the former Crystal Endeavor, now called Silver Endeavor. I had the pleasure to see that ship when it was Crystal. I haven't had an opportunity to sail in it since you guys took it over, but it is for sure one of the most amazing ships in the luxury expedition market. And you were able to acquire it because of those deep pockets, right? So Crystal had to let go of the ship and you guys grabbed it.
I mean, we could spend another 3 hours talking about the internal politics of the cruise industry, but very fortunate. I think, as you say, absolutely one of the best expedition ships that's ever been built, without a doubt, and very lucky that we have her now as part of the Silversea's family.
So I want to spend a few minutes talking about the Endeavor because it is an incredible ship. It is not your only expedition or polar expedition ship. You also have the Wind and the Cloud, right?
Yep.
But this is your newer one. So just, we do have a lot to talk about. So I want to focus on this one. And that's the picture of the Endeavor. And here's a couple of, if you want to I do want to skim through these pictures rather quickly, but if you want to share with us kind of what we're looking at in each one of these pictures, it'd be great.
So that's, I think, called the Arts Cafe. And sorry, I unfortunately haven't had the privilege of going on her yet either. She only joined the fleet since I left, but I will be sailing on her a little bit later on in the year. But I believe that's the Arts Cafe, one of the dining venues on board. This is just giving you a little bit of an overview of some of the suites. That's pretty much your entry level veranda. That's a silver suite, so it's one of the sort of the top common class.
Okay. I want you to notice the following real quick. The entry level veranda, it's a 356 square feet veranda. I mean, that's why it's called a veranda suite. You don't show this in this picture, but the bathroom is incredibly ample. I mean, it's really comfortable, and that's the entry level category. So, and then imagine the silver suite having 535 square feet. I mean, it's just, and this is the TV comes out of this. Can you see my mouse? I don't know if you can.
Yeah, you can. Little pointer.
Yeah. So the TV comes out of here. So when it's down, you get the full view of the outside, and you get to enjoy the view. But then, if you want to watch TV, then the TV automatically just comes up here. Pretty cool. This is another of the Arts Cafe.
Yeah, I think obviously in my mind she is an absolutely beautiful and scenically sort of that modern yacht sort of aesthetic. I think what you can't see in these images though, and what really does sort of make her such an incredible expedition ship. She has what's called a PC6 ice strength in hull, which, as far as from a technical perspective, that's about as far as a ship can go without becoming an icebreaker, which means they change the way the hulls are designed and developed. And from a consumer perspective, what that means is she has a greater operating range. She can push deeper into the sea ice, deeper into the fjords or the areas that might have hauled up other ships from an exploration perspective. She also has an incredible stabilizing system, so that in times when weather might be a little bit adverse and normal ships would be feeling the motion a lot more, she's quite stable. She has a dynamic positioning system, which from an operational perspective means she can hold against the wind, and that means embarkation and disembarkation. From a Zodiac perspective, you're now in the lee of the ship the whole time, which just makes for a faster, smoother, safer operation. There are a number of incredible, from a technical perspective, and the way that she was designed from an expedition product. She has great range, she has great storage facilities, so you can go at great speed. Exactly. So yeah, really, as you said, I think the fact that she broke all the records for the costs of a new ship just tells you that they really didn't skimp on anything.
Yeah. And it does make a little bit of a difference, right? When you're exploring some of the destinations, being able to beat the storm, right? Just literally move faster than the storm makes a difference. And this is the type of ship that can do that.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the destinations, and I have a slide here that really depicts the four major destinations you guys visit. So talk to us.
Yeah. So, and no offense to the statement, Carlos, I think this definitely, I wouldn't say depicts the four areas that we visit. I think it represents four types of areas that we visit. Of course, we have a huge number of itineraries that are not included in here, but how I like to think of that concept is, okay, we have the poles, we have the Arctic and the Antarctic. The Arctic in general is again broken up into three core regions. There's what's known as Svalbard, which is the Norwegian Arctic, which is an island archipelago group north of Norway, which we typically focus on in the. Okay, so that's a great slide, and just a reminder to everyone, the Arctic is an ocean surrounded by land, whereas Antarctica is a continent surrounded by ocean. Of course, we normally envision the North Pole as someone putting a flag in the ice, but it's all floating sea ice that's constantly moving. So it's important to remember that the Arctic Ocean is surrounded by land. So that little group of islands above Norway, that's Svalbard. That's typically a destination that we head to earlier on in the season. It's great for wildlife, particularly we're looking for polar bears, walrus, Arctic fox, caribou. But from an operational perspective, we aim to get there early on in the season while they still have some sea ice on the western seaboard. It is a national park for all intensive purposes. So wildlife there isn't as skittish or scared of humans as it can be in certain parts of Greenland and Canada. Then we have trips that will depart from northern Norway or from Iceland, from Reykjavik, that go up there. Then we have a bit of a Greenlandic season. And in Greenland, we visit a number of different areas. One of them would be an area called Scoresbysund, which is in the southeast of the island. Then there's the southwest of the island, which is where there are some more of the Viking or sort of early Norse people remains and settlements and establishments. And then as you make your way further up the west coast of Greenland, Nuuk is the capital, but there are a number of small little communities, Umana, Qaqortoq, that we go and visit. Greenland is definitely on the community side, a little bit more scenic and beautiful than the Canadian Arctic is. It's where you get, Greenland is the only ice sheet in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's certain places where you get the massive big icebergs and things coming down. And then heading across to the Greenlandic Arctic, there's a little bit more of a focus on some of the sort of Inuit and native art, be it carvings or leatherwork or things like that. There's a little bit more exploration as you get further up north into areas that are Beachy Sound, Umanak, Velse. Those are destinations that sort of are focusing on iconic historic voyages. So the Franklin expedition, which was one of the major expeditions funded by the English to discover the North-West Passage, then thought to be one of the most important sea routes. This is a time before the Panama Canal. There are a number of historical elements of looking for that expedition and remains from the various expeditions that were sent out to find it. Norwegian Amundsen was one of the first to actually discover the Northwest Passage, and retracing his steps are quite an incredible part. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
This is the Northwest Passage, guys. For those that are trying to get an understanding of what we're talking about, this is Iceland, this is Greenland, this is the Canadian Arctic. This is Alaska right here. You see my mouse?
Yeah.
So the typical Northwest Passage will either start or end. And keep me real, Tim, if I'm saying the wrong thing. But
it's going to start in Greenland, in Kangerlussuaq.
In Greenland? Okay.
Yeah.
So I've seen some. Maybe there are.
It might be a sort of built-on segment or something.
Right. It started in Iceland, but okay. So then so the actual Northwest Passage is that trip from Greenland, this area over here, somewhere in the south part of Greenland, all the way through the Canadian Arctic and into Alaska.
To Nome, Alaska. So, I mean, very sort of specific voyage, but an incredible voyage from a historical perspective. One of the greatest sea routes to have been opened up in the area of exploration around that. So just as a general concept, I'd say those are the three core Arctic areas where we spend and focus some time. I think differentiators or just general concepts. Greenland isn't going to be, at least in the southern parts of Greenland, when you're visiting communities and things like that, polar bears are still hunted. They're seen as a threat to communities. So the wildlife tends to be a little bit more skittish or scared from that perspective. As you get further north into both the Canadian Arctic and Greenlandic Arctic, that changes a little bit. I think other concepts or thoughts to remember: when you're that far north, you're in 24 hours of sunlight. So if you're looking for a trip where you want to see, like, hey, I'd really like to see Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights, you want to make sure that you're on a trip that's either a little bit further south or later on in the season when the days start shortening. We just had our solstice last night. So that's an important concept. From a scenic beauty, areas in Greenland are absolutely spectacular, but so are the Canadian Arctic. So
traditionally, somebody looking to see the Aurora Borealis, they want to go. Normally, typically, those are the sailings that are a little bit toward the end of the season, right? Or October, even November, if possible. Right. Yeah. Although I think you sail in November too.
Yeah, we'd typically be a bit further south by then. But there's one trip that sails, for example, from Reykjavik all the way through to New York, and that's touching onto Greenland, then into the Canadian Maritimes, so Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and then finishes down in New York. So that's a cruise when you're heading far enough south where you'd have that potential.
Cool. I want to show. I know there's a lot of pictures here of the area, so I want to go through them to give our audience an idea of the scenery, and the wildlife, and the experiences of what a trip to the North Pole, I guess, could look or feel like. And then I want us to jump into, because I do want to make sure we try to stay within the hour as much as we can, although I already know that we're going to go past it. But
sorry, yeah, I just shut me up when I need to.
And then, okay, so here we go. So Antarctica, let's talk about Antarctica.
And Antarctica, I'd like, again, I think Silverseas has done an incredible job of trying to package this so that there's something for everyone. And I'll look at three sort of concepts of how we explore Antarctica. The first is the traditional program. It's a 10-day sailing from Puerto Williams, which is the southern tip of South America in Chile, down to the peninsula. It's got 2 days of sea time built onto the front and the back end of it, and then 6 nights down on the peninsula doing the exploration. So that's pretty much the industry standard. You'll see there's one additional option there. It's a slightly longer trip, and that will be focused on getting a little bit further south down to down past the Antarctic Circle. Then there's the next option that you're highlighting there, that 18-night. And that's a voyage that's going out to the Falkland Islands first, spending 2 days there, and then out to South Georgia. South Georgia is an incredible wildlife sort of destination. If anyone's ever thought of, again, it's sort of that safari concept, the Serengeti, the Great Migration, it's where you step onto the beaches with 100,000 king penguins. It really is an incredible wildlife destination. And then that finishes off and sails down to Antarctica before returning to to Puerto Williams. And then the most sort of new product that Silverseas is really working on and developing is the Fly Cruise program. And what that is really designed to do is get you down to Antarctica as quickly as possible. You skip the sailing across the Drake Passage, and you still have the same amount of time once you get down into Antarctica, but you're flying down on a 1.5-hour flight from Punta Arenas in Chile. You're landing on a gravel runway on King George Island, which is part of the South Shetland Island group. And you land on the runway, you disembark, and you go you're straight away that very day you're exploring and part of the experience down in Antarctica. I think from a packaging perspective, or what Silverseas, what our vision is on this, is to make it an accessible destination for everyone. We recognize that over the holiday period, which is the southern hemisphere summer, is the time that we operate in Antarctica. People often have family commitments and Christmas and things like that. Maybe leave isn't as possible. So that's what that Fly Cruise program is really designed to help encourage people to get down and explore and have that time in Antarctica.
Summer program for Antarctica. So that's our winter here up north.
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
So the season for Antarctica is going to run between November to March, and then the season for the Arctic is going to run between May to October, November?
Yes, I think the distinction is we sort of in the early part of the Arctic season in Svalbard, then we move around to Greenland, and then as the ice in the Canadian Arctic starts melting, we start heading further up there. So that's kind of the sequence of movement.
And so notice that the Fly Cruise itinerary is on the Endeavor, while the other ones are not. I don't think there's any particular reason why that's the case. Just, I guess, and by the way, some people want to do the Drake Passage just for the sake of saying I did it, because it's it is quite rough sometimes.
It can be, yes.
But it's definitely an adventure and in the bucket list of many people. And then this is that new option for people that are saying that say, no, I get too seasick. I rather not risk the Drake Passage. I want to take the Fly Cruise package and fly out of Punta Arenas. And Punta Arenas is in Chile. Any advantages of doing it out of Chile instead of Ushuaia?
Yeah, there's a lot, and I don't want to get into too many details because of time, but we for all of our Antarctic programs, we get all of our guests to fly into Santiago, Chile, and from there we connect down. So the little town of Puerto Williams is also in Chile, and there are a number of reasons. Historically, we were using Ushuaia. It's unfortunately just become a very busy cruise port. Turnaround operations alongside the pier are no longer guaranteed, which means you might have to do embarkation and disembarkation by Zodiac, which is obviously a bit of an inconvenience. The weather can be detrimental in those operations then. So Puerto Williams, it remains a domestic flight. It's actually 2 hours further down the Beagle, so you have a little bit more of a buffer in terms of time. You don't have to worry about the or international flights that you would have had from Argentina to Chile. So all around, I think it's been a great move by Silverseas to keep it all within one country. We're the only company realistically operating out of Porter Williams at the moment. So we're guaranteed the pier, and it just makes it a lot more seamless and enjoyable experience for our guests. I don't want to say that we were doing a bad job historically, but Ushuaia as a departure port from an airport perspective is also, it's a bit of a nightmare. At any given day you can have 4 or 5 ships disembarking in the town, and it wasn't a good experience from a guest perspective. So I think we've really done a good job transitioning that. And then the only other sort of comment that I can make on that, and it's definitely not a guarantee, but particularly on the trips that are sailing, whenever you're sailing through the Beagle Channel, you have to have pilots on board, and pilots are essentially captains, but representatives of the government of the country that you're sailing through the water. So there's a local pilotage from either the Argentinian or Chilean government. Now, the benefit of sailing out of Chile is it means we have a Chilean pilot on board, and visiting, for example, Cape Horn becomes a potential on our vessels. Whereas historically, if we had wanted to go to Cape Horn, we'd have to go up, fetch a pilot in Chile, come down, do Cape Horn, go off, drop off the Chilean pilot, get an Argentinian pilot, and then sail to Ushuaia. So now by staying in Chilean waters, or the Chilean side, let's say, of the Beagle Channel, we don't have that problem.
Interesting. What we're looking at here is the jet that you guys charter to fly down to Antarctica, and then the Endeavor. That's a pretty cool picture. Whoever took it deserves a rate.
Well, one more final comment on that, and it goes to being part of the Royal Caribbean group. They've spent a huge amount of money this past season upgrading the runway from a navigational perspective. They've put GPS locator beacons down, which has effectively lowered the operational ceiling, so the cloud ceiling, from 800 feet down to 200 feet. So dramatically improving the potential of success on any of those flight cruise programs. So I think that's a really worthwhile note. Again, just one of those little benefits.
Cool. Couple of pictures and images on Antarctica so that people kind of get a feel of the scenery and the type of experience. Is this, what island is this? Is this South Georgia?
No, that's actually, it's on the mainland. It's a little place called Esperanza Bay behind Hope Bay, where there's an Argentinian station. That's a little Edery penguin colony that we just explore along the shoreline.
Very cool. You get to
humpback whales,
penguins.
And if I may, I'll just take the opportunity, because I think the lady whose name was Amy, if I'm not mistaken. I think she asked, or the question was whether her husband would be able to join. And I think Antarctica is a great destination for explaining or understanding what is potentially possible. Getting ashore in Antarctica is almost enough. The wildlife is pretty much all around you. You still get the opportunity to see from a scenic beauty perspective. I like to use the benchmark, if I may, of climbing up or down a flight of stairs. You can use the hand railing and things like that, but if you have enough mobility in the knees still to climb a flight of stairs, then you're able to get in and out of the zodiacs. And I think that's an important sort of first concept. If that's really something that you would struggle with, an expedition cruise might not be for you. Obviously, you can go down and you could probably stay on the ship and still see the scenic beauty of the area. But if you want to get out and go and participate in some of the smaller hikes and things like that, at least having enough mobility to get up and down a flight of stairs is at least enough to be able to participate. So that's South Georgia now.
And this is South Georgia.
That is South Georgia. Yeah, that's Salisbury Plain. Elephant seals, of course.
This is just, it really looks like you're in a completely different planet.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was, but I think the comment is that Antarctica is the only place left on this planet that looks like it's meant to look like. And
And okay, and so we covered the north, we covered the south, and then we talked about the center, right? And then one of the first places that I want to talk about is Galapagos. Galapagos is one of those places in the world where well, the amount of wildlife that people get to see is just, completely unique, right? And you can't find anywhere else. And again, going back to deep pockets, one of the first acquisitions that Silversea did when they were acquired by Royal Caribbean was taking Celebrity had two beautiful ships lined up for Galapagos, Flora 1 and Flora 2. And then when Royal Caribbean acquired Silversea, they took Flora 2 and pivoted and converted that into the Silver Origin. So very similar in terms of the hull of that Celebrity's Flora, but you completely adapted that ship to be a true Silversea experience. So it's, I think, one of the most beautiful ships. Let me share my screen real quick, but super small, all suite, of course, just like every other Silversea ship, 100 people capacity. Tim, have you been on board this ship? Or
no, I'm going the end of next month. I got to go on the Silver Galapagos, the predecessor of this vessel, but I haven't had the opportunity. And Carlos, sorry, one thing I wanted to say, and I'm not disagreeing in any sense, the amount of wildlife that you see in the Galapagos is truly quite spectacular. I think what is so unique about it, though, is the wildlife has no concept of fear for humans. And I think that is what makes it so different. You're in an environment where you are just seen as another element as opposed to a threat. And that's what makes it so absolutely incredible.
I wanna highlight the details, the wood and the ceiling.
Carlos, in reference to what you're saying, and you're showing some pictures about the Silver Origin, although I haven't been on the ship, and it is and was the Flora 2 and is now the Silver Origin, the picture that's behind me is a picture live on that particular ship, the Silver Origin. That's just before you get to base camp.
That's
on the back of my screen, my screen grab. I love this picture. This is my background every time I do a Zoom, because that is the destination that we're going to go to with my family to get on our first expedition cruise. I told my wife and my son that this is where we're going. And, Joe himself, it's a destination he and his family went to, and he did it just before our sales meeting in January, and he'd gone in December. I have never seen Joe speak so much about one place, and his whole face lit up. I was like, okay, that's it, we gotta go. But it's definitely a treat. 100 people right there, purpose built, and they did the right thing. You have some great staff members on your team at Luxury Cruise Connection, guys I've known through my time as a sales rep, as well as some of them are on this program. One of them I can think of, who I've sat with quite a bit, and he's from down in that region, and you mentioned him before. Yes, that's exactly it. Mr. Salinas, Xavier. Yes. Phenomenal wealth of knowledge. He taught me a thing or a few, just coming from where he has. And this guy has moved up, starting from a guy down there, coming to this cruise line, leaving this cruise line, coming to your agency, and becoming a successful travel advisor underneath your company. I can't say enough about that. Along with Lisa, who I think is also on there, and Stephen as well. You've got a great team, and that's one of the big reasons why
we got 19 advisors right now, and I couldn't be more proud of each and every single one of our team members. And that is just a huge part of the face of our company. But those that have done business with us, know that our company is not, it's a team effort from our advisors just like you said, they're incredibly versed on the destinations, the ships, but also on the guest, on the client. And then we have our concierge team and our coordinators team in the back end that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting post reserve, like after you make the reservation, they're the ones that are really doing all the transfers and the flights and the pre and post and a lot of that stuff that goes on that really complete that experience. So I couldn't be more proud of our team. I think as an agency, we've come along very, very far in terms of becoming a specialized agency in luxury destination, luxury travel, luxury service, and of course, just understanding what our clients need and want to make that experience complete. So thank you very much for that endorsement, Todd. Really appreciate it.
Sorry, I went overboard there, but I couldn't help, when you start talking about people, they all know me.
Thank you for that endorsement, Taz. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
They know if stuff goes wrong, they know who to come to. So they got the connection, which is great.
That's it. That is true. Javi is from Ecuador. He actually lived on board one of the ships, one of the Silversea ships in the Galapagos. So
I would have loved to live on the Origin, I'll tell you that. It wasn't over Galapagos.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Amazing. So so I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen again real quick. So to show our audience more about the Galapagos. These are I don't want to go into the different types of itineraries. I think any one of the itineraries that you guys do in Galapagos is incredible. It's just impossible to choose one or the other. But this is kind of the scenery and the wildlife that you get to see. Obviously, warm water. That's warm water. That's why you see people snorkeling. It's right in the equator, of course, right west of Ecuador. So you get there's no real season. Sorry, I jumped too far. There's no real season for Galapagos. You can literally visit Galapagos at any time of the year because the weather doesn't really change much. You're like literally in the center of the planet. So, and then anything else you want to share on that, Tim?
No, I mean, it's kind of a general comment, but your last slide there with the kayaks reminded me that I haven't even spoken about that at all. The kayaking program or snorkeling, obviously, in the Galapagos is one thing to remember with Silverseas, everything is all inclusive. So it's not like you're having to pay for these as additional excursions or anything like that. We didn't really, because people understand the Silverseas brand and the concept, we all understand that there's the butler service and the great dining options and things like that. But it's also important to remember that once on board, you're not paying anything additional for these excursions. And we also have fleets of kayaks on all of the other ships as well. So be it on the Cloud, the Wind, the Endeavour, up in the Arctic, in the Antarctic, you'll have that opportunity to go kayaking and exploring on some of our warmer water itineraries. We have the snorkeling as well. So that could be around French Polynesia or Papeete and things like that. So just a reminder, because I saw that slide with the kayaks.
And there's another warm weather destination you visit that is all the way in the other side of the planet, which is Kimberley, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Kimberley, to me, and I don't know if America has this sort of relationship, maybe with Canada, but Australia and South Africa have a certain love-hate relationship, and I feel like the Kimberley is something Australia is keeping to themselves and not advising to the rest of the world. But it's this region, almost exclusively accessible by boat. There is some road traffic up there, but it definitely doesn't go along the shoreline or anything like that. And it's this unique, immense wildlife area. It's known to have it's the only area that has two different types of Aboriginal or Indigenous rock art. It's got beautiful, big scenic valleys and cliffs, incredible geological formations. the Twin Falls of King George River. It really is an exceptional wildlife destination. It's looking for saltwater crocodiles, for wallabies. This is a picture of Montgomery Reef. It's what Sir David Attenborough called the 7th natural wonder of the world. The Kimberley is an area that has immense tidal swings. It can be up to about 20 feet. And what that does, so that example of Montgomery Reef, it's a reef that is exposed as the tide starts dropping, and it's much like a river. It's got these arterials coming out of it, and you go up and explore it by zodiac. The Kimberley as a region it's hot, it's tropical, it's along depending on the itinerary, you had two up there. One is pretty much from Perth, Fremantle, which is the port, all the way up to Darwin. There's some that will do Darwin to Broome or round trips in that area. But as a region, you're going to visit some absolutely spectacular geological sites. You'll be looking for wildlife. So it's a warm weather version of going down to Antarctica in my mind. It's still beautiful from a scenic perspective. The vessel that's there has all of the benefits that you need to feel comfortable on board, the outer decks, the swimming pools, and all those sorts of things. But it really is an incredible sort of polar opposite, as you say, the middle segment of the world. And it's an area that we have a number of different itineraries. Obviously, at least my experience so far in the US market is when people are going to Australia, they'll probably want to do something before or after, because it is a bit of a longer trip. You're going to want to spend about 3 weeks or so there. But it really is. It's a part of Australia that you can't get to any other way than on a ship. And it is just absolutely spectacular.
I think it's important to highlight the fact that being a luxury cruise line and providing that all-inclusive service, it's all about trying to remove things that you have to think about, or I guess any additional costs or anything like that, because everything is included. So on a typical Silversea cruise, I'm just going to say this like in general, on a typical Silversea cruise, you're going to have two options. You're going to have what they call the door-to-door fares, and you're going to have what they call the port-to-port fares. The door-to-door are all-inclusive, including your transfer from your home to the airport, including flights, including transfer from the airport at your destination to the cruise and or hotel. Everything is included. On every Silversea cruise, your excursions are included. Obviously, when it's an expedition cruise, that's basically a given. But your flights are also included. And then they have a port-to-port offering, which basically excludes the transfer from home and excludes basically everything that is not the cruise. Airfare, all of that is stripped out of the fare. And it also becomes a non-refundable deposit fare. So you get a little bit of an extra discount on those port-to-port fares. Silversea runs promotions throughout the entire year.
Sorry, Carlos, if I may, just one other thing. And it's just a nice to know, but for example, our polar regions, we also include the big parkas, which are really great, waterproof and warm insulated, with backpacks and water bottles and things like that. So there are some other additional benefits, sort of inclusive components to it as well.
Makes sense. Is there anything that they need to know in terms of like anything that is not included on your expedition itineraries?
From the polar region perspective, the only and it's a little bit of a variable, unfortunately, depending if you're on the fly cruise or not. The only things that I highly either recommend renting through the service that we provide are the rubber boots. But other than that, I think it's pretty much all taken care of. Yeah.
The rubber boots are to be rented and then they get delivered to the suite.
Exactly. So there's an external third-party company called Ship to Shore, and they work with you during the booking process, and you go ahead, you say I need, and they do the parkas as well. They do the sizing and all of that, and you say, okay, I need a parka in this size. would you like to rent the boots? Yes. And, they have hiking poles and things like that as well. You can buy gloves and beanies and other things if you want from them. Obviously, you don't need to. And that all just arrives in the suite, on embarkation. When you get on board, they'll be there ready and waiting for you.
Amazing. And now, real quick, before we go into the Q&A part of our event, there are incredible offers right now, especially for last minute Arctic. So if anybody, for all of you guys, those procrastinators out there, if anybody has not planned your 2023 yet fully, which most of you probably have, but if you haven't, and we caught your attention with the Arctic, there are some great last minute deals for the Arctic. Traditionally, Silversea will increase their fares every 3 months. Todd, keep me real here.
Yep, that is correct. We always call this the rotation of every 30, 60, 90. So quarterly, we're going to make a change. And we got about 8 more days. I kind of put that in the chat there. 8 more days of this expedition program that we have going on from June 1st through the 30th, which happens to be next Friday. So if you are just thinking about it from this event, you definitely want to start saying, let me at least put down an option. So you got that price.
But, regardless, if you already have your 23 worked out, then obviously for those that are attending today's event, we have a special something for you. So just to put this in perspective, I do want to say this. Silversea works with us in putting together this exclusive discount for people that attended the event, and it is meant for new bookings, right? I do want to be clear about this because the idea, what Silversea wants to do with this offer is to generate new business and not to dilute existing business. So it is a little something that we put together so that we can get you excited about a new booking, obviously at prevailing rates. So, which means like the best promotion that it is available right now. And this lasts for 2 weeks. Now, remember, I told you about the 2 different types of fares, the door-to-door and the port-to-port. Well, this applies to door-to-door, right? So the port-to-port is already highly discounted, so they don't allow compatibility for this promotion. But the door-to-door is the full service, really kind of hands-off type of experience where you literally get picked up and taken all throughout your experience, and you get to have $500 savings per suite or $250 for solo travelers, and this is valid on any 2023 or 24 voyage. And this means for any voyage, whether it is expedition or classic cruising, for 2023, 24, as long as we're talking about door-to-door fares. Okay, questions. Questions. I see the chat here. Let me stop sharing real quick. Let me go through all these questions. I have direct messages. I have published messages.
We had a few people asking a couple questions about Endeavor and whether or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through each one of them. I'm gonna go through one of them. Let me see. I'll add Warren, may I get a hard copy brochure on the Endeavor on the mail? Warren, count on it. Denise here is taking note. We're gonna get a brochure. By the way, this presentation that I shared with you guys today and all these pictures, if anybody wants it, let us know. We're happy to send it. But we will share. Remember, we'll share the recording of today's event. It's going to go out in an email that's going to go out tomorrow. So we'll send digital copies of brochures as well, so that you can download the brochures at home and look at them from your computer. But for those that, if anybody wants a hard copy, like Warren, we'll be happy to mail one to you right away. Carla is asking, will the Endeavor ever sail to Galapagos or somewhere warm?
No, she will be our pole-to-pole ship because she brings us the greatest opportunity for the longest amount of time to get people from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, or top to bottom. And she's going to have a little extension added to her. She's about 200 guests, 20,000 passengers. I mean, pictures, you've seen them. She's beautiful. But when you say warm, she's actually a cold water destination ship for us. Is that correct, Tim?
And also keep in mind that for the Galapagos, ships cannot carry more than 100 passengers.
100
right?
passengers, exactly, correct. That's why we have this one behind me, purposely built with just 100 passengers. And that's it. You got to keep that wildlife willing to want to come right up next to you and not worry about you. And that's
Question: What will the Endeavor do when the Endeavor is cruising from the north to the south or south to north? Where is it doing any itineraries that can be offered to the public?
Predominantly, it's actually going to. I mean, it will do some. It'll have a pretty extensive Europe, British Isles season, but it will do larger segments of just empty repositioning. Not to get too much into the logistics of it, but she's just a far more efficient vessel to reposition across the tropics. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Understood. And okay, so Todd was saying that you have not created a digital one of the.
Yeah, the brochure that he's looking for, he was just looking for an Endeavor, or she, or whoever it was, if I remember correctly, was looking for the Endeavor, a brochure.
You don't have a physical brochure for the Endeavor specifically?
Right. We have digital version on the website, which is the link that I shared with the chat. But what I will do is we have her deck plan and everything is in our regular brochure for 2024. It's a very thick brochure that we just have that's come out for all of 2024, but we don't have a purpose-built separate brochure yet. Now, will it come later on down the line? I think so, but I think we're going to probably end up waiting till we do some changes to her, because she's got a helipad up there, I think, if I remember correctly. And she's going to have that removed, and we'll have some more suites put in that area. So, kind of looking down long term, we want to wait to do that job one time rather than saying, oh, you've got something out that doesn't have the full complete deck plan. So we haven't got an actual hard copy yet.
Cool. Okay, so we'll send the digital one in the meantime. Polar plunges.
Yes. That's a question I actually asked Tim, because I was curious whether or not they have it in every location, because I keep seeing pictures and I'm not sure where they are, but everybody tells me that they do have it.
Absolutely. I'm actually looking to see if I can find a picture to show what a polar plunge looks like for those who might not know. There we go. I don't know. Does it work? Can I post images in the chat?
Go ahead and share your screen if you can.
Okay. Let's open that. Share the screen. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this, I love this photo. Obviously, this is pretty much the format of how we do a polar plunge. We have a Zodiac tied up alongside. You can see in the foreground there's a little bit of a ladder that is to help you get out. The rope is a safety sort of feature or requirement. The water is about 33 degrees, so it certainly is very brisk. But yeah, polar plunge is definitely something that we always like to try and offer on our polar voyages.
Anyways, we'll see. Okay. Yes, I got an internal message about. I want to clarify about that. That door to door is within 52 miles of the airport. A slight charge for extra mileage, but most people will qualify for it without a problem.
Yeah, I have some information I'll send on to you regarding that post of this event, and you can share it with the guests. It will give them.
I think that's important for us to include that in the follow-up email. A little bit of information about the door-to-door and port-to-port types of fares.
Sorry, Carlos, I see one question there for me about the weather in Antarctica.
Okay.
I think as a general concept, thinking of a northern hemisphere winter, which is what most of you would be leaving if you're from the northern reaches, that's about the temperatures you're going to be experiencing down in Antarctica. It's generally going to be high 30s to low 40s. It's obviously the southern hemisphere summer. Obviously, there's extremes on both sides of that. I've had days in t-shirts with suntan lotion on, and of course, when the weather turns and the snow and wind, it can be a little bit colder and more miserable. Dressing in layers is obviously the biggest key to that. But in general, you're probably looking at reasonably similar temperatures to what you would have in the northern parts of the US around that time.
Cool. Stephen Horowitz was asking, are there cruises from the Western Hemisphere to the Kimberley, or are flights required? If flights, how long is the flight from New York to Darwin?
I'm guessing, and I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure on the routing here, but I'm guessing it'll probably fly New York to Sydney as a direct flight. I don't know though. And then from Sydney to Darwin would probably be a 4-hour flight or a 3 to 4 hour flight. I would have to look. I'm really just sort of thumb sucking there. There would be cruises that you would be able to join depending on the season, but coming across from South America, French Polynesia, Fiji, Solomons, Vanuatu, and then heading up there. But that would be quite an extended sort of cruise if you wanted to sail that whole way.
Any examples of so first of all, what ship is doing the Kimberley?
So this year it's the Explorer, which is a ship that we haven't even spoken about, but she's leaving our service at the end of this year, and it'll be the Cloud next year.
The Cloud next year. It's the Explorer is one of your smallest ships.
First, yeah, our first.
It's in great. I know it's going to be leaving the fleet, but I do know it's in pretty good shape too.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Explorer, if I'm not mistaken, Stephen, I'm not 100% sure. So if I'm lying, please, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure that ship is going to be doing an itinerary that goes all the way from Antarctica and all the way through the south of the hemisphere, visiting. I think it's that itinerary that would probably beat the record for the most amount of penguins you will see, the most diversity of penguins you could possibly see. You're going to be visiting so many islands that you would not be able to visit in any other itinerary, with different types of penguins, including those in South Africa, all the way through the Australia region, where you'd be able to do this itinerary. So it's a very long voyage, but if anybody's really into it, that's a pretty cool one. I know that the Explorer is doing that one, unless something changed. I don't know what the Cloud is doing next year, but so yes, those ships don't get empty repositioned to the Australia region. There's opportunities to sail to the region, although some of them are very long voyages, right?
Yeah,
I think I'm right.
There's another question here asking about the onboard experience difference between classic and expedition. Just very briefly, I mean, from the ship perspective, from the staff, the service level, all of that, you're not going to find very, very many differences. The staff, the waiters and the butlers work in between the vessels. So from that level, you're not going to notice any difference. I think that the biggest difference is the expedition team as a huge part of the educational and enrichment component. Every evening you have a recap and briefing, which is hosted by the expedition leader and some of the expedition staff, and they're there to provide either the plan or insight for the following day's activities, and then also a recap on the current day's educational component. So there isn't necessarily the traditional evening show and things like that. Obviously, we still have all the bars and the musicians, but instead of having an entertainment team with the cruise hostess and things like that, it transitions more to an expedition, educational and enrichment experience.
Back to Warren's on the brochure. I think there is one on pole to pole expedition, right? The brochure for pole to pole expedition, Todd. We have a hard copy of that. Denise, help me
That's
follow.
probably a direct mail piece that might have gone out, but I'll check through some of the historical side and see what we have.
We'll follow up with you to try to get that over to Warren. Also, a little bit about the port to port. I'm seeing I don't want to butcher your name. I'm so sorry. Lonit Shapiro. And you're asking about port to port. What is included on port to port fares?
Okay, good question. So, as instructed, the port to port is starting from your home within 52 miles or 80 kilometers.
Oh, port to port,
Nearest,
not door to door, but port
I'm
to
sorry.
port.
Oh, sorry, my fault. Thank you. With port to port, what's included is simply what it says. You get on the ship in one port, you get off the ship. It's going to be everything included on the ship, starting from the port to the port. You will need to get yourself to and from air, hotel, transfers of any type to that ship's port of call and from that ship's port of call. Hence the word port to port. It is a severely and heavily discounted fare. It is only in the deluxe categories on down on select sailings. It also has a component called port to port prepaid, which means instead of you putting down a deposit and then putting the balance down, that might be substantially lower than the door to door, it will give you the opportunity to go ahead and pay the whole entire thing in full and have a savings up to, and that keyword is up to, because it can be anywhere between 10 additional percentages off or 15 or 20%. So 20% is the max that they'll do on a port-to-port prepaid. But I do want to caution you, if you are the type of person that already has your air miles, already has enough points, and you are willing to take a good risk because you like to save $1 or save more than $1, that is the program for you. And you want to make sure that you understand clearly that when you do that program, you are responsible to get yourself to the port and from the port.
Not just that, but also becomes non-refundable. The port-to-port prepaid is non-refundable. So the
That is
whole
correct.
thing becomes non-refundable and very, very restrictive. So it's, you have to really know what you're doing there.
Right, know what you're doing. I would not do it in an expedition product, though. I would tell you definitely let us take you. Pay that money to have us take you the right way to see the expedition product.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note, the onboard experience stays exactly the same. So the inclusions on a port to port are exactly the same as the inclusions of a door to door.
That is correct.
All your drinks, your tips, everything is included.
Right, 100%.
Perfect. So let's see what other questions. Rick just booked on Antarctica. Can the special savings be applied to this new booking? I know that you made this booking literally 2 days ago. So
on Tuesday, we'll check on that. We're checking on that one for him. That came from Steve's client.
Yeah, that is Steve's client. That's correct.
Yeah.
So we'll figure something out, Rick, because obviously we understand. And John is asking onboard experience differences between classic and expedition ships.
Yeah, he was just talking about that. Tim was.
Yeah. So again, just to recap real quick, the experience is, basically the same.
It's the same.
Classic and expedition, they're all suites. They all have butlers. The service level, I think, the only thing that I would say is that the service level on board expedition ships might feel a little higher because of the fact that there's just less people, right? Suppose, it's just, the largest expedition ship is what, 200 and something people? Well, the Cloud and the Wind are how many people?
They're in the 260, 270 range, right in there. But, again, that brand new Silver Endeavor, if he's at 200, we're probably going to be putting a few more that puts her right there. So we have 3 ships that are right around that 260, and they'll be in those places that you can take. Right. So from 100 guests all the way up to 260 guests is about what you want to say.
But in terms of, I guess the only other differences that I want to point out is the fact that your newer ships, right? The Muse, the Moon, the Dawn, and of course the Nova, and now
and Raid, right?
Very, very soon. They have a lot more dining experiences than
That's correct.
the Spirit, right?
Right.
It was refurbished and enlarged than your typical Cloud or Wind. But
Right.
the Endeavor, on the other hand, is that one expedition ship that has a very nice offering of dining options, correct?
Right. Correct. You're right on point. Yes, sir. That is correct. The dining options are going to be more, look at them like, okay, you're going to have Zodiacs on all of our expeditions. Okay. You're not going to have Zodiacs on our classic product. You will have more dining options on our classic product. On our expedition products, you will probably have on about 3 ships or so a multitude of dining options that are available, as opposed to just having 1 or 2. Okay, so you're not going to have 8 like we do on our classic, but you'll definitely have, at least 2, 3 options that are there. And your dress is going to be a little different too. That's the other thing. Nobody really brings up the dress code.
Yep. The dress code is going to be different, and the entertainment is going to be also a little bit different, right?
Correct.
The voyages are going to have a little bit more enriching lectures,
Right.
while you're not going to find enriching lectures in a classic cruise.
Right. 100%.
So that's that. All right, cool. Any other questions? What else can we share with you guys? I want to use this opportunity to just a little, 2-second commercial here on Luxury Cruise Connections. For those that have never done business with Luxury Cruise Connections, please know that we are a full-fledged luxury cruise agency. We are Virtuoso. We are one of the fastest growing Virtuoso cruise agencies. In fact, we are also proudly just got announced, South Florida Business Journal gave us top 50 fastest growing companies. And we also were nominated for World Cruise Travel Awards. It will be the 3rd consecutive year. We already won 2021, 22. We got nominated and won. And this year we're nominated again. Hopefully we can win. So by the way, we're going to be sending a link together with the recording of this event so you can vote for us. Please vote for us and help us win for 3rd consecutive year as Best Cruise Agency. This is World Travel Awards, so we're very proud of that. North America Best Cruise Agency. That's the name of the Cruise Travel Agency. That's the full name of the award. So very proud. We won 2 times. By the way, Steve, you're wrong. We don't have 5 Virtuoso Cruise Icons. We have 7 Virtuoso Cruise Icons. And in fact, so Virtuoso is the largest luxury consortia in the world. I'm just doing this because I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in our team. The largest luxury travel consortia in the world, Virtuoso, has 78 cruise icons on the entire world, out of which Luxury Cruise Connections has 7. So we're almost 10% of all Virtuoso cruise icons. That's a huge thing. So listen, we're focused on luxury service. We're focused on obviously being an expert at our client, but just helping our client across, throughout the entire journey. And we have incredible relationships with our cruise vendors like Silversea that really allow us to make that experience that much better. I just want to ask Todd real quick, just one question for you, Todd. Is there any reason why anybody would want to do business with us or not do business with us?
Well, the biggest thing I'll say is this: Luxury Cruise Connection is one of our top cruise travel agencies. The fact that you see me on this event, knowing a good amount of your staff that has either worked with me or worked for us here at Silversea, tells you kind of that in and of itself. And I always say this: never go alone on your trip of a lifetime or vacation. Take somebody that will advocate for you all the time, that has the connections and the right people and are in touch. That is Luxury Cruise Connection, Forest Travel. That's them, and you can't go wrong. So if you make a choice out there and you decide to go it alone, probably not the best choice. I'm going to tell you right away: go with Luxury Cruise Connection and their entire team and staff. They have the connections as they do, and they will take in luxury. So that's the best you can say about it at all. But get somebody to advocate for you all the time when you travel. That way you don't have to, and you can worry about vacationing.
Thank you. And one last real quick thing: would anybody ever get a better price going direct to Silversea?
No, because you said virtuoso, and that's the top. And Silversea can't give you virtuoso unless you're going through Luxury Cruise Connection.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, enough about us. Let me go back to Amy and her question. What is the average age people who are on the expedition cruises, and what is the average number of days of an expedition cruise?
The first part, you don't need to swim at all. We don't make you get in the water by any means. So that's not a problem. And if you do want to participate in the snorkeling, we do have plenty of flotation devices and things like that to make it a safe and comfortable experience. So we definitely not excluding you from it, but you don't have to. The next part of that, what is the average age? I couldn't tell you an exact number. I think it's around 63 is the average age. Obviously, we have, by nature of a number of bucket list destinations, we have some older clientele that certainly come. I think the oldest person I ever took to Antarctica was in their 90s. I think age is often just a number, and it comes down to more mental age and your desire and passion to go and see these places. So, you know, I don't think there's anyone on this call younger than 8. We'd probably not encourage you. There are age restrictions on the lower end, but definitely not on the top end. And then in terms of the length of a cruise, it's so variable by destination. You know, the Galapagos, for example, is a year-round 7-day program. I would say that the good average time is about 10 days. Some of the trips obviously go a lot longer, and particularly if you're combining segments on longer voyages. I think I've had the longest time I've had someone on board the ship with me was about 6 months, and they sailed all the way from the Arctic down to Antarctica with us. So you know, there's obviously a huge number of variable factors in there.
And Todd's
and Tim, if I could just add, your staff is very capable of assisting anyone in and out of the Zodiacs as well.
So I don't know who made that comment, but thank you.
That was me, Steve. That was me, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I mean the level and attention to care is always there. I speak from experience. You know, being an expedition leader on board, safety is obviously always our number one priority. And you know, occasionally we do have guests who need a little bit more time. I would always just ask them to come towards the end of an embarkation or disembarkation if they do require a few extra hands to help them safely get in and out. But they are absolutely incredible at ensuring that everyone is on and off safely, without a doubt. Thank you, Steve.
And Rick was asking about the boots. When ordering boots, is that billable to the room or directly paid to the third-party provider?
It's all done well before, so it's typically done directly, I think, with the third party. I would need to confirm, and I see Steve, I think, also said that he was going to confirm on that. But to my understanding, it's paid directly to the third party, and that's done up in, you know, I think it's up until a month before the departure or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. What other questions do we have out there? What other questions do we have out there? Come on, let's see. Before we lose Tim has to go soon. Tim, I'm sorry, we've kept you a little longer than.
No, not a problem.
Lots of good questions, though. I mean, thank you for asking those questions. And guys, look, there's plenty of options out there. You know, as a cruise agency, you all know that we don't work with just any cruise line. We've been doing business with Silversea for, I don't know, infinite amount of time since they exist. And our business with Silversea has grown quite a bit, especially in the last several years, because, you know, they've been delivering incredible results. You know, clients that go on board Silversea come back raving about it. They rebook, and you know, it makes our life easier. So we love putting clients on board those ships. And we're here for you. I want you guys to know that anything that you guys need in terms of both expedition or classic cruising all across the industry, but especially with Silversea, let us know. We'd be happy to take really good care of you, extend not only the best promotions that Silversea has to offer, but also combine it with some additional agency and virtuoso promotions. Obviously, you're able to take advantage of offers like the ones that we put out there for any new booking within the next 2 weeks. And what else? I mean, just keep in mind that if you already have a Luxury Cruise Connections advisor, thank you, Todd. It says there is only one Luxury Cruise Connections, the top virtual partner of Silversea. Thank you so much. We're here for you. We're here to take every single care of every single detail for you. If you already have a Luxury Cruise Connections advisor that works with you, I'm sure you're in great hands. I am sure that you're being well taken care of. If you don't have one assigned to you yet, let us know. Just reply back to the invitation that you got for this email, for this event. Let us know that you'd like to be introduced to somebody, and we will immediately reach out to you and make sure that we engage, so that you're not dealing with just a call center. You're not dealing with just anybody. You're dealing with an expert that is going to get to build a relationship with you, and really understand how to make the best out of your trip. That's it. If we don't have any more questions, I'm going to let everybody go.
Excellent. From my side, I just want to say thank you, Carlos. It's been a pleasure to be here. Love to participate and help. And one thing I do want to say is the questions don't need to stop just because this happens. At any point, if you do have any more questions for us, please feel free, either through Carlos, Todd, myself. We'll definitely reach out and do what we can to assist.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you all. I'll see you soon on the next one. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Todd.
Todd.